House will come back to order. Lunch recess was extended so we could take care of a little business for the people of Georgia. The clerk will ring the bell. Okay. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions. The clerk will read.
Recognizing and commending the University of Georgia Department of Public Administration and Policy and marking the 50th anniversary of the Masters of Public Administration program. Honoring Dr. Antoinette G. Alvarado for receiving the 2016 Georgia Noble Women's Award. Recognizing March 15, 2016 is Atlanta Junior Rowing Association Day at the Capitol. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. George F. Hostillo III. Commending the House interns for the 2016 regular session. Recognizing and commending Jonathan Crowder, outstanding Georgia citizen and Eagle Scout. Congratulating Chairman Melvin Davis on the grand occasion of his retirement. Recognizing and commending the National Hookup of Black Women Incorporated Atlanta Metro Chapter. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Mike Lamar Moon. Recognizing Michael Douglas and commending the Harlem Legends on the occasion of their 25th anniversary. Recognizing and commending Leonard Lenny the Penny Taylor for his outstanding public service as Georgia State Capitol Safety Officer. Recognizing and commending Jerry Tucker. Recognizing and commending Joseph Hudson. Recognizing Commissioner Joan Garner. Recognizing and commending Kawanza Hall. Commending the Georgia Aquarium and recognizing the facility's 10-year anniversary. Recognizing Dan T. Cathy. Recognizing Yafa B. Israel. Recognizing Carl Webster Barnes. Recognizing and commending Reverend Jasper W. Williams, Jr. Recognizing and commending the Proctor Creek Stewardship Council. Recognizing Junelle Thomas. Recognizing and commending Donata Russell Major. Recognizing and commending Councilman Andre D. Dickens. Recognizing Lily P. Allen. Recognizing Joyce Little. Recognizing and commending Marvin S. Arrington, Jr., the District 5 Fulton County Commissioner. Recognizing Greg Fan. Recognizing and commending Marvin S. Arrington. Recognizing and commending Ivory Lee Young, Jr. Recognizing and commending Rita Jackson Samuels. Recognizing and commending Bishop Barbara Lewis King. Recognizing and commending Dr. Joyce Dorsey. Recognizing Nathaniel Bronner. Recognizing and commending Commissioner Emma I. Darnell. Recognizing and commending Stuart Perry. Honoring the life and memory of Charles Allen Nasworthy, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. What purpose does Representative Rhodes rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be temporarily suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Rhodes, the 120th, to be titled an act to amend an act to provide that certain officials of Greene County who have served at least 15 years in office may, upon leaving, continue to participate in the county health insurance program.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none. Intergovernmental coordination. What purpose does Representative Douglas rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker,
State your motion.
I would like to make a motion that that we would waive the House rules of 48.1 to have a bill read for the first time.
Clerk will read the caption.
And
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Douglas, the 78th, to be titled an act to amend an act to provide for a new charter for the city of Stockbridge.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none. Intergovernmental coordination. For what purpose does Representative Douglas rise?
to make a motion, Mr.
State
Speaker,
your motion.
I would like to make a motion that the House rules be suspended so a bill can be read for the first time.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Douglas, the 78th, to be titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of Stockbridge.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none. It is so ordered. Intergovernmental coordination. All right, we're about to go on to the rules calendar. About to go back to the rules calendar. The chair, at the request of the author, is postponing Senate Bill 331 until the next legislative day. That's Senate Bill 331. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 364. Senate Bill 364.
Senate Bill 364 by Senator Tippins, the 37th, Sims the 12th, Wilkinson the 50th, Shaper the 40th, 48th, Cowser to the 46th, and others, to be titled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Quality Basic Education Act, so as to revise provisions relating to annual teacher, principal, and assistant principal evaluations. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nix to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I come to bring you Senate Bill 364. And I will say up front, other than the budget, Senate Bill 364 may be the most important and most consequential bill that we'll pass this year. This bill represents a major collaboration between the House and the Senate. I'd like to thank Senator Tippins for all of his work, Chairman Coleman for his work, and I'll give a shout out to Representative Mike Dudgeon. We're going to miss that guy when he is gone, but he has had a lot of input helping with this bill. And this bill comes in response to our teachers and administrators around the state. In 2013, I carried House Bill 244, which established a comprehensive teacher evaluation system. One of the major components of that system was that a teacher's evaluation, 50% of that evaluation would be based on student achievement or student test scores. And 70% of an administrator's evaluation would be based on student achievement or student test scores. Through the implementation phase, feedback has been overwhelming that these numbers are too high. And I have listened, and we have listened to our teachers and our educators across the state. If you don't remember anything else I say today, remember this. We're lowering the percentage for teachers from 50% of student test scores to 30%. And we're lowering the percentage on the principals from 70% to 40%. Remember those two numbers. Those are extremely important. I'm going to cover this real quickly. One of the other things we had was we required 6 classroom observations for the teachers. This legislation will reduce that to 3 for those highly rated or experienced teachers and free up more time for the others who may need more observation. In our first bill, in order for a student's work to count on the teacher's evaluation, that student only had to be present 65% of the time. We've heard a lot of feedback that that was way too low. This bill will now say that it must be 90%. They must be there for 90% of the class time. One of the feedbacks that I had gotten, and we put language in the bill to fix this, because there are 4 specific categories that a teacher can be placed in, or 4 ratings: exemplary, proficient, needs development, and ineffective. Some systems were reading that to create a quota system. I had teachers tell me that they couldn't get the top rating because there was a quota system. We have stated very clearly in the bill that there is not a quota system. Each evaluation is specific to that educator to let them get feedback, to give them a critique, to help them become better teachers. The second section of the bill is on testing. Senate Bill 364 will substantially lower the number of state-mandated tests for our students. I know you've all heard that we have way too many tests, and I certainly believe we do. This bill will reduce that number from 32 down to 24. Another thing that this bill does that's not new, but it's something we've been talking about, is it puts a very specific focus on reading on grade level by the 3rd grade and on mastery of math by the 5th grade. This was something that Senator Tippin felt very strongly about. We had some very good debate about it, and that is a major emphasis that's coming all the way from the governor's office down, and I think that is very appropriate that we begin to really focus. And this is going to encourage the local systems to develop their own formative assessments to be able to track that. Now, when I say formative assessments, that is not high-stake testing. That is simply tests to determine where that child is and what they need to do to make sure that they're accomplishing at the level they should be. One of the other things that we're addressing is the time of the end of course or end of semester test. I'm sure some of you have heard and you have seen where sometimes these end of course tests are given in April, which leaves the rest of the year really for the teacher to have to find something to do, whether it be videos or whatever. We're going to urge the state board and the local boards to move that testing as close to the end of the year as possible, and we've asked them to report back to us the roadblocks they find in doing that. One of the problems also we've had is the development of what is called SLOs, student learning objectives. The tests the courses that we have that have state-mandated end of course tests are pretty easy to come up with the end of course tests, but the SLOs are for those courses that there's not an end of course test, and they have to be created on a local basis. We've heard the teachers, we've heard the administrators on this, and we're going to give them some flexibility. so that they can develop those tests, and this will give them an opportunity to help their teachers with that, and I think that will be a very big thing for the teachers who teach those courses. Section 3 details an appeals process. We've heard many times that the teachers, when they're evaluated, they say that the evaluator tells them they need to do certain things, and then when they do them and they bring them to them, they don't include that in their evaluation. What this Section 3 does is it refers them back to the Board of Education's process for this. So if they feel like that process has been violated, they now can go back and say, okay, here are the steps you must go through, and they can get a rehearing on that. It doesn't change their final rating, but at least it addresses that process. As I said earlier, I carried the original bill. I want you to know that this bill does not dismantle our evaluation system. It was something that I think that we needed. Our teachers would agree that they needed it, but it responds to some very reasonable requests we've had to make changes to improve the process. We listened, we heard what they had to say, and now we are acting to respond to our educators. You have on your desk a list of endorsements. There's a letter there where all of our major education organizations, PAGE, GAE, the School Boards Association, School Superintendents Association, all of those folks have endorsed this particular bill. And also on the other side of that is a summary of this bill that gives you all of the talking points. So, Mr. Speaker, with that summary, I would like to ask for everyone's favorable consideration on Senate Bill 364, and I'll be glad to try to answer questions if I have any.
You have some questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Education Committee, Chairman Coleman, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir, to my chairman.
Gentlemen, isn't it true that the House took our version that was submitted by Chairman Tom Dixon that we thought was a very good bill, and we took that and combined it and took the best parts of a great bill and created what we consider a very good bill? Is that not true?
That is very true.
And isn't it further true that the House held numerous hearings and spent numerous hours hearing from over 39 people throughout the state of Georgia, teachers, administrators, organizations, and every one of them was positive and urged us as quickly as possible to pass this bill?
And that is also true.
And isn't it also true that for the first time since I've been down here in my 24 years, every education association, as you mentioned earlier, PAGE, GAE, Yale, PTA, Georgia School Boards, Superintendents Association, and even Tragic, endorsed this bill wholeheartedly and urged us to pass it? Is that not true?
While it is amazing, that is true.
And gentlemen, isn't it true that I say everybody in here, we need to have a victory today, and everybody needs to put a green up on that board? Is that not true?
I agree with you 100%. Thank you.
Thanks to the gentleman.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Chair recognizes to your right Coach Williams for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
As a 35-year veteran teacher and retired, and I appreciate TRS every month, is it not true that the State Department of Georgia staff is telling county school superintendent that they need to give, that the principals need to give more 2s and less 3s and 4s? And furthermore, will this bill fix that quota system, this quota system?
We do address that in here. I have not heard that the state board has given that mandate, but I have heard from teachers who said they were told that. And we do address that in here, that it says that there is no quota system. Each evaluation is specific to that teacher to help that teacher, give them feedback, critique to help them become better teachers.
Okay, will this bill fix the quota system?
I would say that it does, yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true? Can the chair ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that for those of us that believe that teachers ought to be freed up to teach more and test less, This is a good bill.
It absolutely is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You have no further questions?
Thank you. I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 364.
I'm keeping an open mind on your bill, though, by the way. Chair recognizes Representative Dudgeon to speak to the bill. Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler. I need to start doing that more often. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 364 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 364. The ayes are 172. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 402. Senate Bill 402.
Senate Bill 402 by Senator Mullis, the 53rd, Burke of the 11th, Harper the 7th, and Watson the 1st. Being entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to drug abuse treatment and education programs, so as to provide for a moratorium on the issuance of new licenses to narcotic treatment programs. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Regulated Industries. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen in the House, I bring to you Senate Bill 402. This is a bill that the primary sponsor is Senator Mullis. You may have heard of him. He's in a committee over there in the Senate. I think it starts with an R, ends with an S, and got ools in between. This is one of the bills that I take a lot of pride in bringing to you today. In our area, we have the proliferation of many methadone clinics. And these methadone clinics are set up to dispense methadone to people who are addicted to narcotic drugs. Methadone is a drug that gives the euphoric feeling if it's not used appropriately. Now, it's used to wean people off of other drugs, and it's supposed to be easier for people to remove their constant addiction and constant drive to have methadone. And this is the reason, one of the reasons that we need this bill is because we have many methadone clinics in Georgia. If you wouldn't mind, Brent, put up the Florida methadone clinic. In Florida, there are 33 methadone clinics. Florida has a population of approximately 20 million people. And if you'll look on the screen there, that shows the dispersion of the clinics throughout the state of Florida. Now, if you would take that down and put up the Tennessee caption. Now, this is the Tennessee clinics, and they have 6.6 million people in Tennessee with 11 methadone clinics. Now, the question becomes, how many clinics does Georgia have? If you would, please put the Georgia caption up. In Georgia, we have 62 methadone clinics. We have 10 million people in our population. Florida has 20 million. They have approximately half the clinics we have. Tennessee has 6.6 million people. They have 11 clinics. The problem is the licensure and regulation of these clinics is not enough to make sure that they're getting proper health care from these clinics. And I want to tell you about John Tinker, a young man that I know. He worked for me around my office, helping me. He was 19 when he died. He was under the care of one of the methadone clinics in my district, and he had been off the methadone for a while. They gave him his prescription at the clinic, and that's where you have to get the drug. He took the drugs, died of an accidental overdose because he wasn't getting proper medical care. And that's the problem this bill is aimed at addressing. If you would, yeah, if you'll look up there where it says, close to where Tennessee and Georgia meet, where it says Chattanooga, those are the areas that you're going to see in my district. Between Senator Mullis and myself, there are 11 methadone clinics in our area. If you look at Walker and Catoosa counties, between Walker and Catoosa County is 130,000 people approximately. We don't need 10 or 11. So what does that tell you? What I would infer from those statistics is that you have people coming from all over the place, and these clinics are not being monitored and regulated in a way that precludes them from giving these very strong and addictive drugs out, and these drugs are getting on the street. John Tinker's just one person, just one young man who's lost his life as a result of an overdose on these drugs. Now, what this bill proposes, or what this bill does, is it creates a state commission on narcotic treatment programs. It has members, 3 of them will be appointed by our Speaker, 3 will be appointed by the President of the Senate, and 5 will be appointed by the Governor. And of those 5 that the Governor appoints, 1 will be the Commissioner of Community Health, or his or her designee, the Commissioner on Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, or their designee, and 3 members who will represent a cross-section of the interest in narcotic treatment programs, owners, pharmacists, and law enforcement. And so that's part of what the bill does there. The Speaker and the President of the Senate will appoint co-chairpersons, and they'll call and run the meetings. And then there'll be compensation for the members in an appropriate manner. Now, the moratorium, what this also does, in addition to setting up a commission to study this, it places a moratorium on the licensure of any new applications for narcotic treatment programs through June 30th, 2017. And it gives us time to study and work on the way these are licensed, look at the Department of Human Services, Department of Community Health, see who should be regulating and licensing these clinics. And that's what the bill does. There'll be a report filed by December 31st, 2017, so that we can see what the findings and conclusions that the commission makes. Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to yield for questions.
You do not appear to have any questions.
Well, then, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your favorable consideration, ladies and gentlemen of the House. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief and be supportive of the gentleman's bill, but I wanted to share with you guys what I thought as I sat in committee. We heard this bill, and I heard the gentleman present it and talk about how many of these facilities and how some may not be doing it in a best practices manner and the need for this study. And it made me think that having gone through some things with my family and my mother over the past 5 years, and her receiving great treatment at hospitals, you know, including in part Northside, St. Joseph, and CTCA down in Noonan, how we took it with this bill, that we're taking it upon ourselves to do the right thing by the folks that need this service, to put a committee together to make sure they could deliver. And yet we as a legislature haven't been able to come together and put a similar study together to look at certificate of need, to look at CON in this state, to make sure the people that need other medical treatment can get it. And then I thought further how this House acted a couple of weeks ago on the representative's bill to bring money and funding to rural health care, and yet earlier this week that was stopped in the Senate. I hope when we come back, those of us that get the opportunity to, that we take time and we don't let a situation get out of hand like this before we take a minute and we study the certificate of need process and move the state and bureaucrats out of the way and let healthcare professionals sit down with families so that people in Georgia can get the care that they need. And then I hope in the next 3 days in this session, the Senate will take another look at the gentleman's measure that was going to deliver upwards of $100 million to rural health care in this state and give Georgians in those areas the opportunity to have the hospitals and get the care to Georgians that we need. Mr. Speaker, I hesitated to take the time of this House to talk about an arguably tangential matter on this bill, but it is important that we study this and get it right for those that need this treatment. But it's also right that we study the needs of Georgians and get health care to them. And God help us if we don't do that over the next 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on Senate Bill 402? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 402 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 402. The ayes are 169, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 269.
Senate Bill 269 by Senator Stone of the 23rd, Heath of the 31st, Thompson of the 14th, Ligon of the 3rd, Martin of the 9th, and others. Being entitled an act to amend Code Section 36-80-23 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to the prohibition on immigration sanctuary policies by local government entities. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Petrie to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you today Senate Bill 269. Now, this is a very short bill, 1 page, and what it does is simply tightens up, if you will, Georgia's sanctuary city laws that are already on the books. So in this code section, we already prohibit sanctuary policies by local governments. And it also, in this code section, prohibit them from receiving grants. However, there is currently no reporting mechanism in the bill, in the code, and so this bill requires a certification annually that there is no sanctuary policy in effect at the local level. This bill had much impact and conversation from GMA and ACCG, and they are both approve of this bill in its current version. Mr. Speaker, that's very simply the bill, and I stand for any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, sir. I yield the well.
You do have a question. Do you yield?
I yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Flood to your left for a question.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, Chairman.
Just had a quick question for you. You said in the beginning of your conversation about this bill that sanctuary cities are already against the law in Georgia, right there?
That is correct.
And so this bill would require reporting that the cities are complying with the law.
That is correct. That is not currently required. Now they will be required to.
So are cities or counties required to report compliance with other laws that are on the book prevent certain activities?
I can't really speak to that, sir. Again, all I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, is that indeed the associations representing these organizations were in support of this bill.
Thank you.
That's all I can tell you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 269 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 269. The ayes are 118. The nays are 52. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The chair is postponing Senate Resolution 954 to the next legislative day. We're about to do announcements. We are about to do announcements, and I'm going to ask you to be at order for just another couple of minutes here with us while we finish up our business. We're going to be bringing the pages in, and page photographs will be made immediately upon adjournment at the rostrum. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Majority Caucus, Chairman Hatchett, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I got notified just a minute ago by the chairman of the Rules Committee in the Senate that they will be meeting upon adjournment today to set the calendar for tomorrow, but there probably won't be adjourning until around 4 o'clock today. Then they will be meeting Monday noonish or early afternoon to set the calendar for next Tuesday and Thursday. Just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice for an announcement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning at 7:15, Legislative Fellowship is meeting, and I just want to let you know if you're going to come, the governor plans to be there with us tomorrow. So I'd hope that you'd honor him and honor us by coming tomorrow morning at 7:15 at 125 downstairs.
Chair recognizes Chairman Maxwell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Regulated Industries will meet at 2:45. We were scheduled to meet at 2 o'clock. We will meet at 2:45, room 506, and we may be there a couple of hours on several pieces of legislation. So I need my Regulated Industries folks there. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Coomer for an announcement. Just a minute, gentlemen. These are important announcements about meetings during the last days of this session. So I'm going to pause just for a second. If you need to go ahead and leave and don't want to hear the announcements, this is your opportunity. But if you want to hear them, you need to listen up and give attention and respect to the members in the well. Gentlemen may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Transportation Committee will not meet today. We will not meet today. We will meet tomorrow afternoon briefly.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the Higher Education will meet in 15 minutes in 403 to take up the substitute to Senate Bill 18. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Reinders for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're going to meet for governmental affairs in room 515 of the LOB in about 10 or 15 minutes. A lot of bills need to talk about. Government affairs, 515 of the LOB in about 15 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Chandler for an announcement. She waves. Chair recognizes Chairman Coleman for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Education Committee, we will meet in the Capitol. It's a change. The Capitol, 416. Right now, a meeting in about 5 minutes, have one bill we need to move. So right now, 416, fourth floor of the Capitol.
Chair recognizes Chairman Allen Powell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Public Safety Homeland Security meeting, we're going to back our meeting up from 3 to 3:30 and LOB 406.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the Georgia House of Representatives for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand in recess until 4 p.m., at which time we will stand adjourned until tomorrow morning, Wednesday, March 16, 2016, at 10 a.m. for our 38th day.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be in recess until 4 o'clock p.m. this afternoon, at which time we will stand adjourned until Wednesday, March 16 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess until 4 o'clock p.m., and then we will be adjourned until Wednesday, March 16 at 10 a.m.